Hello again, year 3 and year 4. Welcome. It is hashtag Well Dressed Wednesday. I'm in my shirt, raring to go. It's another writing lesson today. I don't know if you words. I don't know about you, but I'm really excited for this writing lesson because it is our final Wolves in the Walls writing lesson. It's the point where we add on the last bit of this piece of writing. So it's really exciting, but also we're like, yay! We're going to have a completed piece now. So that's really, really good, isn't it? Let's have a little look at what our starter is for today, and then we can get straight into the writing. So the spag starter says, underline the relative clause in each sentence. We visited the fun fair that came to our town. My uncle who lives in Australia sent me a present. My friend whose rabbit I look after is on holiday. Now, a relative clause is a clause that you can embed into a sentence or put at the end of a sentence to tell you more information about a noun. Okay, see if you can have a little go at underlining what you think is the relative clause in each of these sentences. There's one in here, there's one in here, and there's one in here. Okay, so for each sentence, 1, 2, 3, write down what you think the relative clause is, or write the full sentence and underline what you think the relative clause is. Have a little guess, because you might have not looked at relative clauses. Some of you in year 4 definitely will have done. So let's see what you can remember. Okay, this might take you a couple of minutes. So pause the video there and have a little go at doing that for me now. Okay, so a relative clause is a clause or a group of words with a verb in it that can expand upon a noun. So it sits after a noun and it starts with who, which, where, whose, that. And you know it's a relative clause because it adds information to a noun, but also isn't needed in the sentence. And we could take it away. Let's have a little look. We visited a fun fair that came to our town. Well, I recognise that that is a relative pronoun, which starts a relative clause. We visited the fun fair is the main clause, so the bit of the sentence that makes sense by itself. And that came to our town is the description of the fun fair. Okay, the fun fair is the noun. And that came to our town is describing which fun fair we're talking about. So the whole thing there is the relative clause. That came to our town is the relative clause. A bit like which came to our town. We visited the fun fair which came to our town. That would also work. Okay. My uncle who lives in Australia has sent me a present. Now this one is slightly different to this one. In the top one, the relative clause came at the end of the sentence. Okay. Where in this one, I can spot here, there's a relative pronoun. It's who, which, where, that, whose. So I know that that's a relative pronoun. And here is the noun it's describing. So it's the uncle. And now where do you think the relative clause, ends in this one? My uncle who lives in Australia has sent me a present. Well, it's just this bit, isn't it? Who lives in Australia. That is the bit that's describing the uncle. And if we didn't have that bit, we can check its relative pronoun, get rid of it. My uncle has sent me a present. That still makes sense, with or without the relative clause. Same for this one. We visited the fun fair that came to our town. Get rid of the relative clause. We visited the fun fair. It still makes sense. What about this last one? My friend whose rabbit I look after is on holiday. What's the relative pronoun? The word that starts the relative clause? Well, in this one, it's whose. My friend is the noun we're talking about. And whose rabbit I look after is on holiday. Well, it's whose rabbit I look after. My friend whose rabbit I look after is on holiday. And we get rid of the relative clause just to check. My friend is on holiday. So you see, in each of these relative clauses, it just gives us a little bit more information about the noun that we've been looking at. The bottom two are embedded into the sentence, which means they're squeezed into the middle of the main clause, whereas the one on the top is plopped at the end of the main clause. Okay, so relative clauses are quite tricky, but well done if you were someone who managed to create the relative clauses there and find them. The best way to remember relative clauses are the ones like John, who is my friend, plays football. Okay, and you can just see there, this one is more obvious because it's separated with commas, but you can see how it adds on a little bit more information about the principal noun that we're talking about. Okay, there we go. That's relative clauses for us for today. We might come back to those ones if we struggled with them. So, Monday, we started on our final plot point 5, the wolves coming out of the walls. And we had a description focus, didn't we? We were just focusing on describing the walls and the wolves just before they arrived. Today, we're having an action focus. Let's have a little look at what our challenges are. Our challenges are to use short sentences for effect. We're following that down. Should I get that out of the way? To use adverbial phrases and prepositional phrases, and to use personification. So personification when you're making something that seems like it's not, which isn't alive, like a tree or a table or something like that. Make it sound like it's got human emotions and actions and things like that. For example, the tree waved. It's not really waving, but it makes it sound like it's a person. So short sentences are fine. Adverbial phrases and prepositional phrases. Adverbial phrases are those phrases that tell us how something happened, and a phrase is more than one word with no verb in it. So, and prepositional phrases are phrases that tell us where something happened or the location of something. Again, a phrase is more than one word, but there's no verb in it. Okay, so we'll be having a little look at using adverbial phrases and prepositional phrases in our writing. Before we start, let's quickly remind ourselves of the writing we did last time. Now, I came back to this yellow bit. In the end, I decided that actually I was happy with it, so I'm not going to change that. Every night, for what seemed like weeks, Lucy waited and waited for the wolves to come. One night, her waiting came to an end. It started with a single crack. Just like a lightning bolt cutting across the sky, it appeared almost instantly. Bit by bit, the faded pink walls of Lucy's bedroom began to crumble away. It was a waterfall of dirt and debris cascading to the floor. By now, Lucy was used to the unusual noises in the night, but even she was unable to sleep through the ever-growing sounds of destruction. She awoke with a start, just in time to catch a glimpse of a single beady eye, which was a sickening dark yellow, glaring through a gap in the wall. She froze. The room was silent. Then, just as Lucy had feared for all these nights, the wolves came out of the walls. What I'm going to do is I'm going to copy that down to where we're writing today, just because it's helpful for us to have something to be referring back to, and just double check that whatever we're doing is not repeating itself. Okay, so don't forget you've got these the 9 ideas for writing. You could write a smell, sound, sight, touch, taste, thinking, talking, action, or feeling sentence if you're ever stuck. Right. Well, I want lots of action in my next paragraph. Okay, and I want this to be like the chase sequence. So when the wolves are chasing the family around. Okay, so I'm going to start straight away with some action. So maybe I want Lucy to kind of dash out of the bedroom and jump out of the bed. So rather than just going straight with she jumped out of the bed, maybe use a fronted adverbial. Well, I can get myself an adverbial phrase in straight away. So how did she jump out of the bed? Without a second thought. So without a second thought, Lucy now jumped out of the bed or scrambled out of the bed. Was it? No, it wasn't. It was year 1, year 2. We looked at the word scrambled in our reading comprehension yesterday, and it's like a desperate, panicky movement, okay? So I'm going to use that now. Without a second thought, Lucy scrambled out of her bed. And maybe she's flailing and kicking her legs backwards to keep the wolves away. Without a second thought, Lucy scrambled out of her bed. I'm actually going to use a semicolon here. So a semicolon, which you guys won't have been introduced to yet, semicolon to separate clauses, separates 2 main clauses that make sense by themselves, but have talk about something that's very similar and have, linking ideas. So you can't just be 2 completely separate sentences that talk about completely different things. They talk about the same kind of things, but they're separate main clauses. I'll show you what I mean now. Lucy scrambled out of her bed. Her legs flailed and kicked violently to keep the wolves away. So I've used a semicolon there because this makes sense by itself. Lucy scrambled out of her bed, and this makes sense by itself. Her legs flailed and kicked violently to keep the wolves away. But actually, it's about the same thing. It's about her scrambling. I could, for example, replace that with an and. Lucy scrambled out of her bed and her legs flailed and kicked violently to keep the wolves away. And that still makes sense. So actually, I said, right, what I'm going to do, I'm not going to put and, I'm going to put a semicolon, which shows that these are two separate sentences, but they're closely related in content, okay? And a semicolon is a really high-level piece of punctuation. But you've got to make sure that either side of it is a full sentence. It's got to make sense by itself, okay? You should be able to replace that semicolon with a full stop, and it all work, okay? But there is no capital letter after a semicolon. Without a second thought, Lucy scrambled out of her bed. Her legs flailed and kicked violently to keep the wolves away. So maybe I should describe what the wolves were like, how their jaws were snapping and gnashing and things like that as she slams the door in their faces to get away. And maybe I could use some personification to make the door sound alive. So I've already got an adverbial phrase in there without a second thought, because that's saying how something was done. Maybe rather than saying the wolf's jaws, I could just say teeth. And just go straight with teeth. Teeth were chomping and do I like gnashing? I feel like it's a bit of a made up word, like Dennis and Nasher from the Beano. Teeth were chomping and snapping in the air, trying to take maybe I should describe like a delicious chunk of human flesh. Scaring myself. Teeth were chomping and snapping in the air, trying to take a delicious chunk of human flesh. Flesh. Oh, amazing. That is scary, that, isn't it? Teeth were chomping and snapping in the air, trying to take a delicious chunk of human flesh. So this is where I'm going to make it sound like the door is a person. Only the door provided protection for Lucy. Only the door provided protection from Lucy. She managed to slam it shut just in time. And then maybe a small sentence. It wouldn't hold them for long. Maybe I can make that even shorter. She managed to slam it just in time. She needed to hurry. Yes, I like that one. Oh no, I've got two she's there. No, I'm going to go back to what it there. It wouldn't hold them for long. I wrote quite a bit then, so I need to go back and make sure it makes sense. Only the door provided protection for Lucy. She managed to slam it shut just in time. It wouldn't hold them for long. Tell you what, because we looked at a semicolon, we might as well look at a colon as well. Doesn't matter if you don't really get it, because it's not something you really need to know until year 5 or year 6. But a colon, that one, again, works in a similar way to a semicolon. Both sides of the colon, need to make sense by themselves and should be able to be replaced with a full stop. So only the door provided protection for Lucy. That makes sense. She managed to slam it shut just in time. That makes sense. But whereas a semicolon connects two clauses that are vaguely similar, a colon connects. I don't know why I keep saying introduces. Connects two clauses where the second one explains the first one. For example, vampires are scary, they suck blood. That second part explains the first part. So in this one, only the door provided protection for Lucy. She managed to slam it shut just in time. Well, that's explaining how it provided protection for Lucy, which means we can use a colon there, okay? So that's some really high-level punctuation. So don't panic if you're not quite getting it. You can replace both of these with full stops, and it would work just as well. Only the door provided protection for Lucy, She managed to slam it shut just in time. it wouldn't hold them for long. So I've used personification now. I've managed to get that one. I've used an adverbial phrase as well, and I would say I've not really used enough short sentences to tick that off yet. So I've got Lucy out of her room now. I kind of need her to maybe shout for mum and dad and brother and get them all downstairs. So maybe new speaker, new line. Let's do a bit of dialogue. So 66, capital letter, mum. Actually, no, let's have it all capitals. Mum, dad. Oh, we need a name for brother. Let's call him Peter. Mum, dad, Peter, she will shout. Quick, it's the wolves. I've used quite a few exclamation marks there, so I want to avoid using any more after this. Mum, dad, Peter, quick, it's the wolves. Lucy screamed at the top of her lungs. And then I want to say, maybe the family kind of skidded out of their bedrooms. So skidded is like you were like, whoa, and you like nearly fall over. So the entire family skidded from their bedrooms, and we use dashed. No, and dashed. Oh, here's a chance for me to use a prepositional phrase. I'm going to say where they dashed. Dashed down the stairs to the front door. There you go. And saying where they dashed is my prepositional phrase. Got that in. Mum, Dad, Peter, quick! It's the wolves! Lucy screamed at the top of her lungs. The entire family skidded from their bedrooms and dashed down the stairs to the front door. Oh, I think I know I'm going to finish mine now. I'm going to finish mine with they can't get the door open, and then I'm going to have a cliffhanger. Maybe Dad's fumbling with the lock on the door. Dad began fumbling, which means kind of like not quite getting it to work, and like your hands are a bit like shaky. Dad began fumbling with the lock on the door while my eyes, I'm not going to get all the family to look, while my eyes were fixed on the upstairs landing, because that's where the wolves are going to be coming from, isn't it? Dad began fumbling with the lock on the door while my eyes were fixed on the upstairs landing. So that sentence is nice and easy. It's just taking two events and connecting them with an appropriate subordinate conjunction. So while this was happening, this was also happening. And that's just a nice way of kind of structuring your sentences together, isn't it? Dad began fumbling with the lock. Soon, no, maybe just then the door gave way. Then, oh no, because it's not clear. The bedroom door, my bedroom door, change the determinant. My bedroom door gave way. Oh, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to have 3 short sentences describing the wolves. I'm just going to say yellow eyes, tattered fur, stained teeth. I do not know why I put a capital letter there for fur. I do not need it. So I'm doing 3 short sentences. Then my bedroom door gave way. Yellow eyes, tattered fur, stained teeth. And that really, do you see how that really slows down the pace of our reading? Because I had my quick bit, and now I'm going to have my slow, sinister bit. Maybe like really slowly the wolves started to kind of like prowl down the stairs, with their prey in sight. The wolves slowly prowled across the hall and down the stairs. Maybe I don't want more dialogue. Maybe like something I can hear. Maybe I could hear someone's breath really heavily. I could hear the sound of Oh, I'm gonna say a bit of dramatic irony here. I'm gonna have maybe mum and dad and brother saying something to her, but she can't hear them, just like they ignored her at the beginning of the story. I'm gonna have her kind of not be able to hear them because of the thumping of her heart. So the sound of mum, dad, and Peter asking me for a plan was drowned out by the thumping of my heart. Ooh. And now I think maybe a little cliffhanger. My eyes locked. This made in the year 5 and 6. My eyes locked with the creatures. There was a pause. Then it pounced. Dot, dot, dot. Bum, bum, bum. And that is going to be the end of my Wolves in the Wall story. Let's have a little look. I'm going to go from the very beginning, actually. Every night for what seemed like weeks, Lucy waited and waited for the wolves to come. One night, her waiting came to an end. It started with a single crack. Just like a lightning bolt cutting across the sky, it appeared almost instantly. Bit by bit, the faded pink walls of Lucy's bedroom began to crumble away. It was a waterfall of dirt and debris cascading to the floor. By now, Lucy was used to the unusual noises in the night, but even she was unable to sleep to the ever-growing sounds of destruction. She awoke with a start, just in time to catch a glimpse of a single beady eye, which was a sickening dark yellow, glaring through a gap in the wall. She froze. The room was silent. Then, just as Lucy had feared for all these nights, the wolves came out of the walls. Without a second thought, Lucy scrambled out of her bed. Her legs flailed and kicked violently to keep the wolves away. Teeth were chomping and snapping in the air, trying to take a delicious chunk of human flesh. Only the door provided protection for Lucy. She managed to slam it shut just in time. It wouldn't hold them for long. "Mum, Dad, Peter, quick, it's the wolves!" Lucy screamed at the top of her lungs. The entire family skidded from their bedrooms and dashed down the stairs to the front door. Dad began fumbling with the lock on the door. Ooh, I don't like the repetition of door, so I'm just going to say the lock. Dashed down the stairs to the front door. Dad began fumbling with the lock while my eyes were fixed on the upstairs landing. Then my bedroom door gave way. Yellow eyes, tattered fur, stained teeth. With their prey in sight, the wolves slowly prowled across the hall and down the stairs. The sound of Mum, Dad, and Peter asking me for a plan was drowned out by the thumping of my heart. My eyes locked with the creature. There was a pause. Then it pounced. Boom, boom, boom. So that's what I'd like you guys to do. I'd like you guys to finish off your Wolves in the Wall story with some dramatic ending. This is what I've done. I've done a cliffhanger, but you can have yours ending whatever way you want. I would love to see some of your completed stories, so send me the entire thing if you can. If you want to type it up to make it really, really neat like I've done, then feel free, and I'd love to see some of our completed stories. If you send me a typed version of your full story, I will have a little go at trying to get it onto the social media. Okay, thanks so much, guys, and I will see you tomorrow for our reading lesson. Bye.